Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that constantly demands our attention. Advertisements tell us who to be, social media tells us what to want, and society tells us where to go. But have you ever paused to wonder, where am I in all of this noise? Today, I invite you to step away from the external and turn inward. It's time to focus on yourself, not in a selfish way, but in a necessary way. We've been conditioned to believe that happiness lies somewhere out there in the validation of others, in achievements, or in the next big thing. But this endless chase is like trying to catch your own shadow. The more you run, the further it feels. The truth is, everything you seek is already within you. When you focus on yourself, you grant yourself the gift of presence. Instead of worrying about the past or fearing the future, you anchor yourself in the only moment that truly exists, the now. And in this stillness, you begin to hear the quiet wisdom that has been drowned out by the world's clamor. Focusing on yourself doesn't mean isolating from others, it means reconnecting with who you are. It's about embracing your imperfections, realizing that you are not a problem to be solved, but a being to be experienced. This shift changes everything. The more you nurture your inner world, the more the outer world transforms. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this journey is the freedom it brings. When you let go of the need to fit into molds or meet expectations, you uncover the unique essence of who you are. It's liberating. It's empowering. It's contagious. So, my friends, take this as your call to action. Not to do more, not to achieve more, but to be more present, more authentic, and more in tune with yourself. The world doesn't need a better version of someone else, it needs you. It's time to focus on yourself, not because the world is too loud, but because your soul is waiting to be heard. Thank you. Chasing external validation is one of the most pervasive illusions of modern life. It's an idea deeply embedded in our culture, often presented as a fundamental truth that our worth, happiness, and sense of purpose come from the approval and recognition of others. From an early age, we are taught to seek applause for our achievements, admiration for our talents, and acceptance for who we are. This pursuit of validation becomes a central theme in our lives, subtly guiding our decisions, shaping our ambitions, and influencing how we perceive ourselves. Yet, like chasing the horizon, no matter how fast or far we run, the goal always seems just out of reach. This illusion is not without its roots. Human beings are social creatures, and our evolutionary survival depended on being part of a group. Approval from others ensured safety and inclusion in a community. Over centuries, this primal need transformed into a psychological habit, a craving for external signals that affirm our place in worth. However, in our contemporary world, where the stakes are no longer life and death, but rather emotional and psychological fulfillment, this tendency has become more of a hindrance than a help. The more we seek validation from others, the more disconnected we become from ourselves. Consider how often decisions are made not from an internal compass, but from an external script. We choose careers based on prestige rather than passion. We cultivate personas that align with societal expectations rather than our true selves. We measure our success by likes, comments, and applause, all while ignoring the quiet voice within that questions if any of it truly matters. This incessant striving creates a cycle of dependency. Each moment of validation offers only a fleeting sense of satisfaction, quickly replaced by the need for more. The bar is perpetually raised, and the result is a life spent running toward a never-receding finish line. Moreover, external validation is inherently unstable. It is subject to the whims and opinions of others, which are as changeable as the wind. What is praised today might be criticized tomorrow. What wins approval in one circle may provoke disapproval in another. This volatility leaves those who rely on external validation vulnerable to constant emotional turbulence. A single critical comment or a lack of recognition can undo hours, days, or even years of effort. The foundation of self-worth becomes fragile, built on the shifting sands of external perception rather than the solid ground of internal certainty. The illusion also fosters a comparison-driven mindset. When we seek validation from others, we inevitably measure ourselves against them. Social media has amplified this tendency, presenting curated highlight reels of other people's lives that can make our own achievements feel small, our joys inadequate, and our struggles insurmountable. This comparison corrodes self-esteem, breeding feelings of envy, inadequacy, and unworthiness. Instead of appreciating our unique path, we find ourselves yearning for someone else's journey, believing it to be superior simply because it has received more applause. This constant quest for external validation also creates a disconnection from the present moment. When we are preoccupied with how others perceive us, we are rarely fully engaged with what we are doing. Instead of enjoying the process, we focus on the outcome. Will this be good enough? Will it be appreciated? Will it earn approval? This shifts our attention away from the intrinsic joy of the experience and toward an imagined future, robbing us of the peace and fulfillment that come from simply being present. Furthermore, the pursuit of validation can lead to compromises in authenticity. To gain approval, we may suppress parts of ourselves that feel too unconventional, too vulnerable, or too raw. We wear masks, adopt roles, and conform to expectations, slowly losing touch with our genuine selves. Over time, this creates an internal conflict, a growing gap between who we truly are and who we present to the world. The energy required to maintain this facade is immense, leaving little room for self-discovery, creativity, or genuine connection. What makes this illusion particularly insidious is how deeply it is reinforced by society. Success is often portrayed as synonymous with recognition. The narrative suggests that to matter, one must be seen, celebrated, and acknowledged by others. This message is perpetuated in countless ways, from media portrayals of fame and fortune to the social structures that reward conformity over individuality. Breaking free from this conditioning requires a radical shift in perspective, one that prioritizes internal validation over external approval. The illusion of external validation also obscures a fundamental truth that our worth is not something that can be granted or taken away by others. It is inherent, independent of external circumstances or opinions. However, as long as we look outward for confirmation of our value, we remain blind to this truth. We become like a traveler searching for treasure in distant lands, unaware that the map to the riches lies within. The power of presence is an extraordinary yet often overlooked force in our lives. In a world that moves at a relentless pace, pulling our attention in countless directions, the act of being fully present has become rare. Our minds are frequently caught in the whirlwind of the past and the future, replaying memories, imagining possibilities, or anticipating outcomes. While this mental activity might seem natural, it often comes at the cost of experiencing the richness of the present moment. The power of presence lies in its ability to bring us back to the here and now, where life is truly lived. When we are present, we engage fully with the world around us, connecting deeply with our experiences. This engagement is not a passive state, but an active alignment with life as it unfolds. The taste of food becomes richer, the colors of the world more vibrant, and the conversations with loved ones more meaningful. Yet how often do we find ourselves distracted even in the simplest of moments? We eat while scrolling through our phones, listen while formulating our next response, or walk while lost in thought about things that may never come to pass. Each moment of distraction is a missed opportunity to be alive in the fullest sense. The mind's tendency to wander is not inherently bad, but it becomes problematic when it pulls us away from the present with such consistency that we forget how to truly be here. A wandering mind often drags with it a host of worries, fears, and regrets. We ruminate over past mistakes or anticipate future challenges, convincing ourselves that such preoccupation is productive or necessary. Yet this habit creates a split within us. The body remains in the present, but the mind exists elsewhere. This fragmentation leaves us feeling disconnected, unfulfilled, and perpetually restless. Presence, on the other hand, offers a profound sense of wholeness. To be present is to gather the scattered pieces of our attention and direct them toward what is immediately before us. This act is deceptively simple yet incredibly powerful. It allows us to step out of the endless cycle of thinking and into a state of being. In this state, we discover a clarity and calm that cannot be found through external pursuits or distractions. The power of presence also lies in its capacity to deepen our relationships. When we are fully present with another person, we create a space for genuine connection. This means listening not just with our ears, but with our whole being, free from the filters of judgment or the need to respond. How often do we truly listen to someone without planning what we'll say next or letting our minds wander to unrelated thoughts? Presence turns an ordinary conversation into a sacred exchange, one where both parties feel seen and valued. This quality of attention is a rare and precious gift in a world filled with noise and haste. Presence transforms even the most mundane activities into meaningful experiences. Washing dishes, for example, can become an opportunity to feel the warmth of the water, the texture of the soap, and the rhythm of the task. Walking down the street can turn into a chance to notice the subtle details of your surroundings, the sway of trees, the scent of the air, the sound of your footsteps. When we bring our full attention to such moments, they cease to be merely routine. They become imbued with a quiet beauty that often goes unnoticed. This shift to presence does not mean ignoring the past or future altogether. It means recognizing that while both have their place, neither should dominate our awareness. The past is a memory, a story we carry with us. The future is a projection, a possibility that has yet to unfold. The present, however, is reality. It is the only time we can act, feel, and experience life directly. By grounding ourselves in this reality, we regain a sense of agency and clarity that is often lost in the fog of mental distractions. Presence is also deeply connected to self-awareness. When we are present, we become more attuned to our thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations. This awareness allows us to respond to life rather than react impulsively. We notice the tension in our bodies before it turns into pain, the subtle stirrings of anxiety before they spiral into overwhelm, and the small joys that might otherwise pass us by unnoticed. In this way, presence becomes a tool for self-care and growth, enabling us to navigate life with greater ease and intentionality. The cultivation of presence requires practice, particularly in a world that constantly pulls us away from it. Our attention is a valuable resource, one that countless forces compete for: daily advertisements, social media, news cycles, and more. These forces are designed to capture and hold our focus, often leaving us feeling drained and scattered. To reclaim our attention and direct it toward the present moment is an act of quiet rebellion, a way of saying that our lives are worth more than being lost in distraction. The journey toward presence begins with small, deliberate acts of mindfulness. It might be as simple as taking a deep breath and feeling it fill your lungs, or pausing to savor a sip of tea. These moments are not trivial. They are the building blocks of a life lived with intention and awareness. Over time, these practices can expand into a way of being, a habit of returning to the present whenever the mind begins to wander. Inner transformation is the foundation upon which everything else in life is built. The world around us is constantly shifting, evolving, and presenting new challenges. Yet the one thing that remains constant is the inner world we carry within ourselves. How we experience the external world is not shaped solely by what happens outside us, but by how we interpret and respond to those events. Our internal state, which consists of our thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and perceptions, determines the quality of our experience. Inner transformation, then, is not merely about changing our circumstances, but about changing how we relate to those circumstances and ultimately how we relate to ourselves. To change the world, we must first change ourselves. This doesn't mean simply altering superficial aspects of our lives, such as our habits, routines, or appearances. True inner transformation goes much deeper. It involves a fundamental shift in perspective, a reawakening to the power of our inner world. It requires us to step away from a mindset that looks outward for validation, fulfillment, and answers, and instead begin to look inward. When we embrace this shift, we discover that everything we need is already within us. The key to unlocking this potential lies not in seeking more from the external world, but in looking deeper into the richness of our own consciousness. The world mirrors our inner state. If we find ourselves constantly stressed, anxious, or dissatisfied, it may be a reflection of inner turbulence. If we see conflict, chaos, or negativity around us, it is often because we are harboring those same qualities within. Our perception of the world is shaped by the lens through which we view it. And if that lens is clouded by fear, doubt, or insecurity, our reality will reflect those emotions. But when we shift our internal state, when we embrace inner peace, gratitude, and acceptance, we begin to see a different world. The transformation is not necessarily immediate, nor is it always dramatic. But over time, the world becomes a more harmonious place as we cultivate a more harmonious mind. Inner transformation also means becoming more aware of the stories we tell ourselves. Every one of us carries narratives in our minds about who we are, where we've come from, and where we're going. These stories shape our identity and influence the decisions we make. However, many of these stories are not based on truth. They are simply constructs, often formed by past experiences, societal conditioning, or the opinions of others. To transform ourselves, we must begin to question the validity of these stories. Are they serving us, or are they limiting us? By becoming aware of these unconscious beliefs, we can begin to rewrite the narrative, shedding the old patterns that no longer serve us, and stepping into a more authentic and empowered version of ourselves. This process of inner transformation also involves embracing the fullness of our humanity. We are complex beings made up of many facets, some light, some dark. To truly transform, we must stop trying to reject or suppress the parts of ourselves we deem undesirable. Instead, we must learn to accept them, to integrate them, and to understand that every aspect of who we are has value. When we do this, we stop fighting with ourselves and begin the process of healing. Healing is not about fixing what is broken, but about accepting ourselves as we are and allowing ourselves to grow, evolve, and become more aligned with our truest nature. As we undergo this inner transformation, we begin to notice subtle changes in the way we engage with the world. We become more patient, more compassionate, and more centered. We start to see life as less of a series of problems to be solved and more of a series of experiences to be embraced. We recognize that the challenges we face are opportunities for growth, not obstacles to our happiness. As we grow in self-awareness, we begin to see the interconnections between ourselves and others, and we cultivate a deeper sense of empathy. We understand that the more we transform our inner world, the more we positively impact the world around us. Inner transformation is not a destination, but a continuous process. It requires consistent effort, mindfulness, and a willingness to evolve. It is easy to become attached to old ways of thinking and being, to cling to familiar habits, even when we know they no longer serve us. However, the process of transformation demands that we let go of the old and make space for the new. It asks us to be vulnerable, to face our fears, and to trust that the process, though challenging, will lead us to a more authentic and fulfilling life. The beauty of inner transformation is that it is entirely within our control. Unlike external circumstances, which are often beyond our influence, the way we think, feel, and perceive the world can be consciously shaped. This gives us a profound sense of empowerment. No matter what is happening around us, we always have the ability to respond from a place of inner peace and strength. The more we cultivate this inner power, the less we are swayed by external circumstances, and the more we become creators of our own reality. True transformation begins within. When we change the way we think, we change the way we live. When we change the way we feel, we change the way we experience the world. This process doesn't require us to wait for external conditions to improve. It requires us to shift our own consciousness. By focusing on transforming our inner state, we create the conditions for outer change to naturally unfold. The more we nurture and cultivate our inner worlds, the more we invite positive transformation into our lives and into the world at large. Embracing the imperfection of self is one of the most liberating and transformative acts we can undertake. In a world that places immense value on perfection, success, and flawless presentation, the notion of accepting oneself as imperfect can feel foreign or even uncomfortable. Yet it is through this very acceptance that true freedom and personal growth emerge. The drive for perfection is deeply ingrained in our culture, often tied to the belief that in order to be loved, valued, or successful, we must meet an ideal standard. This pressure can cause immense stress and dissatisfaction, as perfection is not only unattainable but also a moving target. The more we chase it, the further we seem to drift from contentment and self-acceptance. Perfection, however, is an illusion. It is a construct that we create in our minds based on societal norms, media portrayals, or the expectations of those around us. In truth, every person is inherently flawed, unique, and constantly evolving. The quest for perfection blinds us to the beauty of our inherent imperfection. It makes us focus on what is wrong with us, rather than celebrating the fullness of who we are. We forget that our flaws and mistakes are part of our humanity, and that they provide the very lessons that help us grow. These imperfections are not weaknesses, they are the threads that weave the fabric of our individuality. They are the experiences that shape us, the challenges that define us, and the characteristics that make us authentically human. When we embrace imperfection, We allow ourselves to be seen in our entirety, both the light and the shadow, the strengths and the weaknesses. This acceptance fosters a sense of wholeness and integration. It allows us to let go of the constant striving for something better, something more polished, and simply be present with ourselves as we are in the moment. We no longer need to put on a mask or play a role to fit into a particular image. We are free to show up as our true selves, with all of our quirks, vulnerabilities, and contradictions. This acceptance of imperfection also opens the door to self-compassion. When we stop judging ourselves harshly for every perceived flaw or failure, we create space for kindness and understanding. We begin to recognize that mistakes are not evidence of our inadequacy, but opportunities for growth. Each misstep is an invitation to learn, to adapt, and to become more resilient. By embracing our imperfections, we stop seeing them as obstacles and instead view them as stepping stones on our personal journey. We realize that perfection is not the goal, progress is. Every small step towards self-acceptance, every moment we choose to love ourselves despite our flaws, is a victory. Furthermore, embracing imperfection enables us to cultivate a sense of peace with our limitations. We live in a culture that often promotes the idea that we must be exceptional in every area of life, whether it's our career, our appearance, our relationships, or our health. This pressure to excel at everything can leave us feeling inadequate when we inevitably fall short. But when we accept that we are not perfect, and that we will not excel at everything, we relieve ourselves of the burden of unrealistic expectations. We become more in tune with our true capabilities and focus on what we do well, rather than constantly comparing ourselves to others or trying to fit into a mold that doesn't suit us. When we accept our imperfections, we also free ourselves from the need for approval from others. The fear of being judged or criticized often prevents us from showing up authentically. We hide behind masks, pretending to be something we're not, in the hopes that others will like us or accept us. But when we embrace who we are, imperfections and all, we stop seeking external validation and start honoring our own sense of worth. This shift in perspective is powerful because it means we no longer depend on others' opinions to define our value. We become the authority on our own lives, learning to trust ourselves and our unique journey. In addition, embracing imperfection can foster a deeper sense of connection with others. When we allow ourselves to be imperfect, we create space for others to do the same. The pressure to be perfect often isolates us as we fear being judged or rejected for our flaws. But when we let go of that pressure, we open ourselves to deeper, more authentic relationships. Vulnerability becomes a bridge that connects us, allowing us to share our struggles and our imperfections without shame. In doing so, we invite others to be real with us too, creating a culture of acceptance and understanding. The act of embracing imperfection also extends to our creative lives. Creativity thrives in the realm of imperfection. It is the messy, unpolished, and unfinished that often holds the most potential for innovation and expression. When we are not attached to an ideal of perfection, we can explore freely and authentically, without the fear of failure or criticism. The pursuit of creativity becomes a journey of self-expression, not self-judgment. It is through our imperfections that we often find our most authentic voice, and it is through accepting those imperfections that we allow that voice to shine. Imperfection is not something to be feared or avoided, it is something to be celebrated. It is what makes us human, what makes us relatable, and what makes us unique. When we accept our imperfections, we come into alignment with our true selves, shedding the need for validation and embracing the freedom that comes with authenticity. We let go of the illusion of perfection and allow ourselves to simply be, flaws and all. This acceptance is not an act of resignation, but one of profound liberation. It is through embracing the imperfection of self that we find peace, fulfillment, and the freedom to live authentically. The journey of self-discovery is one of the most profound and transformative experiences a person can undertake. It is a process of peeling away the layers of conditioning, assumptions, and external expectations that we have accumulated throughout our lives. These layers, often forged by society, culture, and the opinions of others, shape how we view ourselves and the world around us. Self-discovery, however, is the process of rediscovering our true essence, who we really are beneath all the masks we wear and the roles we play. It is a deeply personal journey that requires courage, patience, and a willingness to embrace both the known and the unknown parts of ourselves. At the heart of self-discovery is the recognition that we are not static beings. We are constantly evolving, growing, and changing. Yet for much of our lives, we are conditioned to believe that we must adhere to fixed identities or roles. We are told who we should be, how we should behave, and what we should value. These external pressures often create a false sense of self and identity that is constructed out of expectations and external validation. To truly discover ourselves, we must begin to question these constructs and the beliefs that underpin them. One of the first steps in the journey of self-discovery is learning to listen to our inner voice. Often this voice is drowned out by the noise of the world, the opinions of others, the constant chatter of our own thoughts, and the distractions that surround us. We are taught to look outside of ourselves for answers, to seek approval, and to measure our worth against external standards. Yet deep within us lies an inner wisdom that holds the answers we seek. This inner voice is often quiet, subtle, and easy to ignore. But when we learn to listen to it, we begin to reconnect with our authentic selves. Self-discovery requires an openness to explore our inner landscape, the thoughts, emotions, and beliefs that shape our experience. This means being willing to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves. It requires the courage to face our fears, insecurities, and past wounds that may have been buried for years. Self-discovery is not always an easy or pleasant process, as it often involves challenging our most deeply held beliefs and confronting parts of ourselves that we may have long avoided. But it is only through this process of honest self-exploration that we can free ourselves from the limitations that keep us stuck in patterns of fear, self-doubt, and unfulfillment. An essential part of self-discovery is recognizing that we are not defined by our past. Many of us carry the weight of past experiences, mistakes, and traumas that shape how we see ourselves. We may identify with these experiences, allowing them to define who we are. However, true self-discovery involves the realization that we are not our past. We are not defined by the roles we have played, the mistakes we have made, or the labels others have placed upon us. We are fluid, dynamic beings with the capacity for change and growth. Our past may influence us, but it does not have to dictate our future. By letting go of the stories we have told ourselves about who we are, we make space for a new, more empowered version of ourselves to emerge. The process of self-discovery also involves a deepening understanding of our values, passions, and purpose. In our quest to meet external expectations, it is easy to lose sight of what truly matters to us. We may find ourselves living lives that are inauthentic, pursuing goals that do not align with our true desires or passions. Self-discovery invites us to reconnect with our deepest values and ask ourselves what we truly want from life. It challenges us to seek out what brings us joy, fulfillment, and meaning. This process is not about achieving a specific goal or reaching a particular destination. It is about learning to live in alignment with our true selves and creating a life that reflects who we are at our core. This journey is not linear, and there is no final destination. Self-discovery is a lifelong process, one that unfolds over time. As we grow, we change, and our understanding of ourselves deepens. Each experience, each challenge, and each moment of reflection contributes to this ongoing process. Along the way, we may encounter setbacks, moments of doubt, or periods of confusion, but these are all part of the process. They are opportunities for further growth and self-awareness. The more we embrace the unknown and the uncertain, the more we learn about ourselves and the world around us. In self-discovery, there is also a deep connection to our intuition. Our intuition is a source of inner guidance, a knowing that comes from beyond the logical mind. It often speaks to us in whispers or subtle feelings, nudging us toward the path that is right for us. However, we are frequently taught to dismiss our intuition in favor of rational thinking or external advice. To truly discover ourselves, we must learn to trust our intuition and allow it to guide us. When we follow our inner wisdom, we align ourselves with the flow of life and move toward the experiences and opportunities that are most aligned with our authentic selves. The journey of self-discovery also invites us to embrace vulnerability. It requires us to be open, honest, and raw with ourselves and ultimately with others. Vulnerability is often seen as a weakness in a world that values strength, independence, and control. However, true strength lies in our ability to be vulnerable, to open ourselves up to the world, and allow ourselves to be seen for who we truly are. In doing so, we create deeper, more authentic connections with others, and we free ourselves from the fear of judgment and rejection. Vulnerability is not about exposing ourselves for the sake of others. It is about embracing our humanity and acknowledging that we are worthy of love and acceptance, just as we are. Ultimately, self-discovery is about reclaiming our power. It is about shedding the layers of conditioning and expectation that have held us back and stepping into the fullness of who we are. It is about realizing that we are not defined by anything outside of ourselves and that the power to shape our lives lies within us. Through self-discovery, we learn to embrace our unique essence, to trust ourselves, and to live authentically. We stop seeking validation from others and begin to live from a place of inner confidence and clarity. This journey is not easy, but it is the most rewarding path we can take. It leads us to a life that is deeply meaningful, fulfilling, and aligned with our truest desires and purpose.